Is there any weight heavier than holding $800 million and facing a closing chapter lined with tears? Céline Dion, the artist who could hush the world with a single sustained note, once seemed to prove that love itself could mend anything. She gave us the power of love, then My Heart Will Go On, and hearts everywhere rose and broke with her. Yet behind the ovations lived a hush nobody heard. Behind the glittering gowns, a body fighting illness. Behind the applause, a woman singing through grief most of us can barely imagine. Her voice carried love lost, paused dreams, and private pain dressed as perfection. The fortune attached to her name is staggering. $800 million. It reflects not only a voice but an iron will. More than 250 million records sold. Las Vegas shows that rewrote entertainment, a perfume line, fashion ventures, and real estate like pages from a fairy tale. A $72 million Bahamian-style estate on Jupiter Island, a French chateau on a private Quebec island valued at $25.5 million, and a serene Nevada home now worth $4.5 million, where her children's laughter still lingers. In the garage, a Maybach 62, a Mercedes-Benz S350, and a Cadillac Escalade, quiet witnesses to triumph and heartbreak. Her $42 million Bombardier Global Express wasn't vanity. It let her be everywhere and nowhere, running from sorrow, honoring duty. But this isn't really about wealth. It's about what it cost. Every dollar is stamped with sacrifice. A show sung after losing the love of her life. A tour pressed on while health faltered. A voice pushed when the body begged for rest. She built more than an empire. She built a monument to endurance. And the price cannot be tallied. When her family looks at the legacy, they don't see assets. They see the woman, a mother who gave everything, a wife who loved without limits, an artist who poured herself into every note. If her music ever held you up, leave a tribute, a simple like for the voice that carried us when we could not stand. She entered the world wrapped in music short of almost everything else. Céline Marie Claudette Dion was born March 30th, 1968 in Charlemagne, Quebec, the youngest of 14. A home full of song, short on means. Her parents were musicians. Harmony lived in the house, but so did empty cupboards and cold floors. Her first bed was a drawer lined with blankets, a tiny cradle for a baby who would one day move millions. By 5, she sang at her brother's wedding, not as a novelty, but because her voice already cut through the noise of poverty. By 12, she was writing with her mother and recording a demo with her brother Michel. They mailed a single cassette to René Angelil, a Montreal manager. He listened and wept. He heard something so pure, he mortgaged his house to fund her first album. That wasn't business. That was belief she didn't have stylists, only stamina. While other kids chased dances and sleepovers, she stood in cold studios, learning breath, diction, and control. She learned English phonetically, shaping sounds before she understood them, because her dream demanded it. Her first hit, La Voix du Bon Dieu, made waves in Quebec. In 1982, at 14, she walked onto the Yamaha World Popular Song Festival stage in Tokyo and sang before 115 million viewers. A girl from a forgotten corner of French Canada became an international name. The gowns and trophies came later. The cost arrived sooner, missing birthdays, missing childhood. In My Story, My Dream, she wrote, I never had a teenage life. I remember microphones and costumes and waking at 5 a.m. for sound check. She carried not only her dream but her family's 14 mouths and a mortgage staked on her voice. Destiny also brought its guardian. René wasn't just a manager. He became her anchor, steady, protective, the first to see her whole. Trust became tenderness. At 19, she put it into a letter. At 20, it became quiet, careful love. They protected it because the world would not understand. In 1994, they married at Notre Dame Basilica in Montreal, less spectacle than sacred promise. He was her manager, husband, mirror, and father of her children, the quiet force behind the spotlight. When she sang about love, she was telling the truth of her own life. She didn't chase fame with scandal. She built it breath by breath. In 1990, Unison was a risk, English language pop from a Quebec star. She was mocked for her accent, doubted by executives. She adjusted vowels, kept the tone honest, and let the voice do the talking. Where does my heart beat now? cracked the U.S. top 5 because she made the world listen. In 1992, Beauty and the Beast turned a cartoon into a family's shared memory. Then, 1997, a ship sinking on screen while the world drowned in her voice. My Heart Will Go On wasn't just a song. It was survival, an Academy Award, a Grammy, and over 30 million copies sold. An anthem for grief and devotion. Success was heavy. Interviews didn't ask how lonely the summit felt. Magazines didn't show migraines, vocal strain, sleepless nights. Still, she gave all every time. In 2003, critics said a Las Vegas residency was where careers went to fade. She turned it into legend, over 700 shows, over $600 million in ticket sales, over 3 million people held by a single voice. Those nights weren't just concerts. They were sanctuary, but the darkest chapters unfolded off stage. May 23, 1999 gave wrestling its own grief. For Celine, the deeper blow came later. In 2013, Renee faced throat cancer. She halted everything and moved into hospital corridors and fluorescent time. On January 14, 2016, he was gone. 2 days later, January 16, 2016, her brother Daniel died of cancer too. 2 pillars in 48 hours. She moved through ceremonies like a fragile lighthouse, lighting candles for husband and brother, voice cracking into prayer. Long before those headlines, she had known a quieter loss. Her niece, Céline Dion, 16, lived with cystic fibrosis. Celine often traded stages for hospital rooms, singing lullabies to oxygen's steady hum. After Carine's passing, she poured that ache into Vol na Fly, a goodbye folded into melody. Not a chart strategy, a promise. Motherhood was a battle she fought in silence. IVF shots, hormone cycles, 2 surgeries, and years of prayer brought the sound of René Charles' heartbeat in 2000 and his birth in January 2001. In 2009, a miscarriage shattered her privately. At 42, after more IVF, twins Nelson and Eddie arrived in 2010. Joy shot through with scars. In 2016, she became a widow, raising 3 boys alone. Lullabies now whispered in dim rooms without the partner who should have been beside her. Even as arenas roared, an invisible fight had begun. As early as 2005, something felt off, breath tightening, control slipping. What started as discomfort became crippling spasms. Backstage, she collapsed. On stage, she smiled. High doses of Valium, up to 90 milligrams a day, not for nerves, but to function. I could have died, she later said. In 2022, the truth had a name, stiff person syndrome, a rare neurological disorder that locks muscles and steals movement. In I Am Céline Dion, the world finally saw it. Therapy tables, clenched hands, a face folding under pain. No orchestra, no encore, only a warrior in quiet collapse. And then, in a trembling but brave return to the studio, if it cracks, then it cracks. If it works, it'll be the happiest day of my life. Not a line for cameras, her creed. Loss kept circling. In January 2020, her mother Thérèse Maman Dion passed. The first believer, the woman who penned early lyrics and pressed hope into small hands, was gone. Celine honored her the way Maman taught, spine straight, voice carrying both mourning and memory. Today, she lives away from thunderous arenas in Las Vegas, Nevada. Not in excess, but in measured quiet. The $4.5 million estate holds more healing than rehearsals. The legendary properties, $72 million in Florida, $25.5 million in Quebec, are sold or set into long-term plans. Her net worth remains $800 million, built across decades of work, perfume lines, platinum albums, and historic residencies. But money now is less trophy than circle of protection around what matters: health, family time. Since revealing her diagnosis in December 2022, she has stepped back, canceling the remaining tour and her return to Las Vegas. This is not surrender. It is recalibration, therapy, nutrition, mobility work, pain management. The silhouette has changed. The fire in her eyes has not. A will isn't public, but quiet estate planning is believed to be underway. An act of clarity, not fear. At the center are her sons, René Charles, now 23, a budding rapper producer known as R.C. Angelil, and twins Nelson and Eddie, now 14, kept out of the spotlight, raised with discipline and love. She still drifts to her home studio, humming in the mornings. meeting a coach here and there, not to chart, but to stay close to the thing that made her whole. Public sightings are rare. Scarves, sunglasses, a careful step, but each appearance reads not as frailty, but as courage. Her boys have seen a version of their mother the world does not. Trembling, fighting through spasms, refusing to yield. They've asked her to rest. She keeps choosing to be their anchor. Now they hold the light for her. Even with a fortune, over $800 million, the true wealth sits elsewhere. Hospital visits, cystic fibrosis advocacy in Corinne's memory, children's causes, the quiet generosity that needs no camera. What endures is not the range of her voice, but the range of her courage, singing when it cracked, mothering with a broken heart, loving when loss argued against it. She held a microphone in one hand, and her family, her grief, her faith in the other. In recent words to fans, "If I can't run, I'll walk. If I can't walk, I'll crawl, but I won't stop." That isn't performance. It's gospel for anyone who's struggling to hold on. The stage may be silent. The songs still live in wedding halls and night drives and hospital rooms. She doesn't need to sing them anymore.